welcome to today's podcast. We are so glad that you are joining us. Today we're going to talk about how to go from a factory worker to working with some of the top coaches and people in the online marketing space. So if you're ready, let's dive in. So today we're going to actually do things a little bit different. Surprise.
We are?
Yeah, today I'm going to interview you. For a reason.
I'm not really good interview material.
Well, for a good reason. So, if you guys haven't figured out, we are married. We've been happily married for going on 12 years now.
Wow, you got that right off the rip.
So, but we have not always been active in the entrepreneur space. How's that?
I like that.
Do you like that? Because, we believe that you're entrepreneurial at heart, but we have not always been active in that. So today we're going to take a look at your story because I think it can help a lot of people. So,
sure hope so.
So briefly, real quick, let's go back to what you did for most of our marriage. Like what?
Most of our marriage?
Yeah, and actually before too, as far as work. Like what did you do professionally?
Yeah. So most of our married life, I actually worked, and the environmentalists cannot yell at me for this because it paid the bills. But I worked for a plastic bag manufacturer. So not trash bags or Ziploc bags, but like parts bags for pretty much everybody.
What did you do there?
I did a whole bunch of stuff there. So I did. You know that.
I do.
So I started out
for the sake of the interview. I'm acting like I didn't.
I realize it's very, very tricky. So I started out as just a machine operator. So I used to make bags, stay up all night, and watch bags run on a machine. It's dreadful.
Night shift's terrible for everyone involved. If you're on night shift, you know what we mean.
I'm sorry if you're on night shift because it's rough. At least rough on your body. Mm-hmm. So I started out doing that, and then I moved into kind of a lead role. I did build some machines, and then I moved into a supervisor role, production supervisor, and then I moved into quality supervision. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that are done in there, some like ERP system launches, and just some lean training and some other stuff like that. But I was in a lot of different departments.
I was going to say, you did everything.
Yeah, I did a lot of everything. So I know about extrusion. I know about printing.
And if you're in the world, you're going, oh, yes. And if you're not in the world, you're going, what is he talking about? These big words.
Right. And then I ran the shipping department for, I don't know, man, like probably almost a year. I was in shipping. Is that about right? Yeah. It was a long time. I filled in for the main guy. He had like a double knee surgery. And so
craziest thing is you did all that in 10 years, 10-ish years.
Yeah, 11. Almost 11. I didn't quite make it to 11.
But
that was fun.
But like some of you guys may be listening to this and maybe have a background like him who's working in manufacturing and going, hey, what does manufacturing have anything to do with online entrepreneurship, coaching, anything like that? And how does one go from one space to another? So tell people, like, what is it that you do now as far as like, because we own a small agency of sorts and we do some work for people. What is it? What's your primary role now? Like what you really are good at now?
So I'm good at probably just about any software that I can get my hands on. And I spend more than a week at. I'm pretty decent.
It's kind of frustrating. For those of you who aren't good at it right away, know what I mean. Anyway, you can hate him. It's okay.
I implement pretty much all the automations associated with marketing. So any of the systems that, are sending out emails and making sure people are getting contacted, or just making sure that people that shouldn't get contacted aren't getting contacted, like all that kind of stuff. So I do that, and then just basic integration things like connecting different systems to each other. Like obviously, there's not really a one-size-fits-all platform that does literally everything.
Right. So you do behind the scenes for a lot of for like some entrepreneurs, right?
Yes, and I thoroughly enjoy looking at data. So
Yes.
So
You study a lot of different types of data all over the place and
yeah.
help people understand what it means and how to use that.
Yeah, and I kind of, so I look at some YouTube data for some people. I look at just like open rates and click through rates and those kinds of things,
Sales rates,
sales,
closing rates,
close rates, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of have a good feel of what's going on in different businesses that way.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy because some people probably think that, oh, if you work as an entrepreneur, it means you have to be like in front of a camera all the time. But is that your experience?
No. I mean, obviously it's kind of my experience
because you were in the camera,
because we get in front of a camera at least semi-regularly, but I'm not like all
That's
the time.
That's for fun though. That's not actually like our main gig though.
No, it's not. It's definitely not our main gig. So, no, I don't think a camera is necessary. It depends on what your goal is and what you're good at. So, it's probably really good for some people, and some people they don't need to do that, and they could be a copywriter and they could never be in front of a camera and make plenty of money.
Right. So how do you think that like what you did before kind of translates into what you did now? Because I know when you first started in this world, you were like, how does it fit together? So like, what have you found to be like kind of the connections there?
So a couple things, right? So like, we did a lot of lean. So manufacturing, obviously, like the faster you can manufacture something, the better typically. So we did a lot of lean, things. So we would,
what does lean mean? Can you that rhymes, lean mean?
So what does lean mean? So lean is like you try not to waste time, right? Like
how to do things the most efficient way.
Yeah, you want to be efficient. You're trying to utilize machines as best you can, right? Because you're like if you have to change out a machine and it's not producing product, then it's not producing money, right? So that change over time, like the faster you can change a machine over from one product to another, the faster you can get back to making money. So things like that. So optimizing schedules and just optimizing workflows and things like that. So you're just constantly looking for ways to improve things. That's really what it is. Continuous improvement, lean. They're very, Six Sigma's kind of an advanced form of those. It's a little bit probably for advanced problems to solve and things like that. So I think that is a huge thing. It's kind of like a way of life. You just look at like, how can you improve things? How can you do things better?
Does that help entrepreneurs?
Sure. Yeah. So you want obviously like the least amount of customer complaints that you can have. So making sure that you're getting people the proper information so that they're not like, if you're getting 50 emails a day about a problem, then if you can, fix it with an email or fix it with a text message or whatever, then you lighten the load for your customer service and they can focus on other things. So that would be an example of that, right? So making sure that those kinds of things don't show up. So that's one thing. Another thing that like we had a couple different softwares that we used. ERP systems are enterprise management systems, enterprise relationship, I don't remember what they are exactly. But basically it's your whole customer, base, right? It keeps your products, it inventories, it keeps your customers, it keeps their art, it keeps their products, like what you're making. So like, that's a huge system compared to like a CRM. Like CRMs are kind of dinky compared to it.
What's a CRM?
Customer relations management.
So most entrepreneurs use a CRM.
Yeah, any kind of like Active Campaign. What's the one? MailChimp. Aweber.
I got one right.
You got one. Like,
whoop, whoop.
So a lot of those are all CRMs, right? So they're managing your customers and like how you communicate with them. So it's similar, but it's like a lot bigger, right? Because it would manage like recipes for us and then like products and raw products, and you would mix, like there was it was inventory, it was a whole bunch of things.
So that kind of overlapped for you a little bit.
Yeah, because it's a huge system, right? And there's so many facets of it. Like you have like customer service has their own section, like engineering has their own section of it, but then they all talk in some way. So just being involved in like an implementation of that, and then like training, I don't know, like people, like 100 floor people on how to use it. Like you just get good at talking, like how to talk to somebody about, you know, a computer, like breaking down a computer issue or a software issue and making it simple for somebody that's probably not very good with computers. So we did a lot of that. So that's good. That's a lot of communication skills and things like that.
So let me ask you this, you know, so for people who are listening, so you're listening right here, and you may be in a situation like Zach was, where you're in a job, and maybe it's in a factory or manufacturing in some variety, or maybe not. But let me ask you this: is like for somebody who wants to get started, doing some, you could call it marketing implementation, you could call it some automations, you could call it, you also build funnels and do some of the stuff in like, so a lot of the back end perspective or the back end sections of entrepreneurship is, what skill or skills do you think people need to do what you do now in the entrepreneurial world?
So, I mean, one thing, like you want to have some computer skills. Obviously, like pretty much everything that I'm doing on a regular basis is on a computer. And it's in multiple softwares. So I think being comfortable with different softwares
and learning
softwares and learning some, you know, just some basic stuff, understanding how different softwares are kind of talking to each other, and ways to do that. And there's plenty of like little crash courses on those things. YouTube's got plenty of stuff. Like there's a lot of free information out there that people give away. And I think that's a really good like starting point. But I would really I would pick something, pick a software and kind of just get in there and start playing with it. Like I think most of the first part of our journey was us building funnels that we never launched. Like I tested them all, right? Like build stuff and test it and see if it works. Like you can test it on yourself. You can log in, just make a fake email account, or not a fake email account, a real email account that's not your primary one. And then just test what you have going on. Like we did a ton of that. So I learned a lot just through busting through it and just figuring out what worked and what didn't. And
you also have another secret that I know that you use that is a skill you would recommend. You do this. Well, you always say, don't be afraid to break things.
Oh yeah.
So like how is that a skill? How do you develop that skill?
So I can tell you how you develop that skill. So I have a great story for this skill. So the ERP system when I was, I don't know, it was probably I was probably like 5th year at this company, and they were changing their computer system, right? So they were going from this old, kind of looked like a Windows 95 kind of thing. Like it was old and it was clunky, and I was getting used to it, but it was still really clunky. It was hard to use. And so they were going to this new program, right? And so I don't know, it was probably like 2 weeks into it, and I had to do something with inventory, right? They're like, hey, this weekend when you're working, like you need to clean up this inventory. You need to do this like inventory reconciliation thing. I was like, okay, cool. So I knew basically how to do it, but when you did it, there was one checkbox, you know what I mean? Do you want to do this or not? And what happened is I couldn't remember, or I did it by accident, whichever one it happened, right? So I did not uncheck the box. So it automatically checked to freeze all inventory. Well, if you freeze all inventory for the entire company on a weekend, nobody that is working can do anything. So I froze all the inventory for the entire company on a Saturday afternoon, right? And 5 minutes later, I got a phone call like, hey, what are you doing? Because they can see, like I was logged in. You can see that I was the one that did this transaction. They're like, hey, what are you doing? You got to undo that. So I literally shut down our whole company. They couldn't do anything. So I had to like go back in.
You didn't get fired.
I did not get fired, right? It was a brand new system. Right. But if somebody's going to do it, you just have to learn. So that, and then there was just a lot of there was so much coming at me, like for the first 2 months, you remember, I was constantly on the phone with people and I was just troubleshooting things constantly. Right. So like
Yeah.
between those two things, you just kind of get used to like something's not going to work right. And it might just be as easy to restarting your computer or.
But you have to stay calm and collected, and you have to just try things. So often people, when things don't work right the first time, or things they think things are broken, they freeze. And one thing that you do is you're like, okay, cool, I'm just going to check this and this and this, and I'm just going to keep trying. So you already recommend, I was going to ask you what you recommend people learn, like, to get started, but you kind of already talked a little bit about that. Do you have anything to add?
So yeah, I think that having a decent and this is probably just me because I enjoy the program, and I think it's very powerful and has a lot of things that you can do with it. But I love Excel, right? Like, and I know it's just a number thing, but Excel can do a lot of stuff, and it can teach you a lot of different things that are kind of going on. And there's a ton of free information about it, but I learned so much about like data manipulation and like if-then statements and that kind of stuff just using Excel, right? Because you can
probably take an Excel course at your local library. Man.
You probably could. I don't know if it would be
online.
I don't know if it'd be quite advanced enough for that purpose, but I mean it would be a good start.
There's tons of online courses.
There's a ton of things, and it does so much, but it gives you a really good understanding of like different programs, because like Excel is one of like the original programs on a computer, and it's I don't know, it was just very helpful when I did some advanced classes with it. So.
You know, one of the things I want you to take away from this is that people with different skills and different backgrounds all have a place in the entrepreneurial world. And so if you're listening to this and you're going, I don't know if I could be an entrepreneur, I don't know if my skills align with entrepreneurship. Here's the thing. You may have a specific idea in your head of what an entrepreneur looks like. And it might be somebody who's really good at speaking, or very good at sales, or very good at some of those front end things that you see more often. And yes, that can make a good entrepreneur, but guess what? So many of those entrepreneurs are missing in need.
What's that?
You.
Me.
You.
Me. They need somebody. Have me.
Well, not you, but you. But seriously though, if you go and you talk to entrepreneurs, and we have happened to have the opportunity to talk to a lot of high-end entrepreneurs, people who are making 6-7 figures in a day. And guess what? They need somebody to help manage that back end. I can't tell you how many people, we have a couple of people we work with, but we can't work with a lot of people because of the nature of what we do. And I can't tell you how many people have said, I need a Zach, or I need a Laura, or I need a this, because that is a real problem. And guess what entrepreneurs do? The definition of entrepreneurship, guess what it is?
I don't know. What is it?
You don't know? Isn't
it solving a problem for somebody?
Hey, you do know. Good job. Yeah. So just like entrepreneurs who are front end, it's my definition. So it's the definition now. Entrepreneurship is solving a problem for somebody else and getting paid for it, right? Well, guess what? Just like other people are solving, problems for everybody else. So think about Russell Brunson. I'm wearing one of his shirts, so I'll pick on him. Think about Russell Brunson. What did he do? He solved the problem of making it easy for people to build funnels by creating a software that anybody could use, so you didn't have to go through coders anymore. But so that was the problem he created. But guess what? If you're really good at integration and tech and automation like Zach, well, you can solve a problem for an entrepreneur or several entrepreneurs of helping them put together their systems and their automations and helping them understand their data so that they can get more customers, keep more customers, and
just make better decisions.
And yes, and right. have less issues, right? And so all it is it's solving a problem. Zach found a problem that his skills allowed him to solve, and because of that, he has people who are asking him to help do that. And so the whole point of this was the fact that you do not have to look, I'm going to quote in the thing, look like an entrepreneur. You don't have to be the front end speaking, preaching, teaching all the time to be in the entrepreneur world. So we want to challenge you right now. If you're interested in being an entrepreneur, start with the mindset that you already are, and your current job is your is who you are serving right now. It's the problem you're solving. You're solving a problem for somebody. You work for yourself. You just happen to, your company solves a problem for somebody else. And it starts with that mindset. And then I encourage you to go look for other ways that you can solve more problems for more people and other people. Do you have anything to add before we close?
And I would say like when like I didn't love my job at all, right? Like, but I used every opportunity I could while I was there to learn something, right? I never like, just because I didn't enjoy the work environment and I didn't enjoy some of the management that I worked with, didn't mean that I couldn't learn something there and I couldn't gather skills while I was there. So I took any opportunity I could to learn a skill. Like I was always going to leadership classes. I was always going to any kind of extra classes to learn anything else. So like take those opportunities, right? And learn skills in the positions you're at, because it can benefit you in the future greatly.
And look where those skills can be useful to other people.
Exactly.
And so we want to encourage you with this story is, if you desire to be an entrepreneur, then claim it. Say, I'm already an entrepreneur. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur wherever I go, in the jobs that I have and the people that I serve, and look for ways to serve people. Look for ways that your skills can solve a problem for people who need it. And you are on your way. And listen, one of our favorite phrases from one of the people we work with is, if Bubba can do it, right? Well, just pretend he's Bubba. If Bubba can do it.
I might as well be Bubba.
Might as well be Bubba.
I'm a goofball.
So if Bubba can do it, you can too. So start having faith in the fact that your skills are needed to solve problems for somebody else. And not everybody, just because it's easy for you and you think they're easy, doesn't mean that they're commonplace. It just means that they're easy for you. It doesn't mean they're easy for everybody else. So with that, go forth and continue to be your entrepreneur. Well, if you enjoyed today's episode, check out this next one.
Right here.
We think you're really going to enjoy it.